this guy, and I'm not going to say names, he's somewhat known, but he married his girlfriend in Las Vegas, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to have a wedding like that, that's cool. But the thing that stuck out in my mind was his bride was dressed like she was at a cocktail party or something. And he was dressed this real disheveled. I think there was some food stains still on his shirt. It was kind of a mockery of the whole situation. I think Elvis did the ceremony. And I get it. You say, well, what's the big to-do? Well, traditionally, weddings are meant to be a serious occasion. You give it respect. And with respect is how you dress and how you act. And it's just not weddings, and I'm just not picking on this one guy because a lot of people do this now. They will go to funerals dressed like they just woke up in the morning, or they'll show up in Walmart in pajamas. It is how you conduct yourself without any sense of dignity to yourself and your surroundings. And part of what makes us civilized through our institutions is to have respect for those institutions. Maybe not the people in them, but at least trying to respect what they represent. So if you go to court, you wear a suit and tie. When I started work, you wore a suit and tie because it's a place of business. Years ago, men would always dress up before they would go outside. If they're working in the garden, it was a different thing, or if they were a blue-collar worker, but you always try to look nice. You went to church, you wore a suit, and women would wear a dress or skirts. And now everyone can look like hobos. And we see this spread everywhere. With Fetterman now, he dresses like a hobo. He's a senator, so the Senate, they changed their dress code. And everyone's like, yeah, what's the big to-do? What's the big to-do? But I think it's a sign of decay of our civilization. And I'm using that because there was a debate last night with the GOP. I streamed the debate, and if you didn't watch it, good for you, good for you. The debate was horrible. And I don't want to talk about the specifics of what they said, because really what the candidates said was irrelevant. They pretty much didn't listen to the question. And to be fair, they only had like a minute to respond. And how are you going to deal with a complex issue like the war in Ukraine or healthcare or the economy in 60 seconds? You really can't. So what all the candidates do beforehand is they prep all these zingers. And it's got so bad now, when the question is asked, they usually don't even bother to answer that question. They pretty much ignore it, and they just go straight to their pre-planned zingers. Like Christie called Donald Trump, oh, I'm going to have to call you Donald Duck because you're ducking these debates. Well, there wasn't any question about that. He just thought he was going to be funny, and his staff prepared him. That zinger. And don't get me wrong, years ago people would have witticisms, they called it back then, but that'd be sparse. You would have your meat of your subject that you talked about, and then you'd have a little bit of witticisms. And that was part of being a good speaker, and you could admire that in someone. But it wasn't just having all these pre-canned things to say. And what I saw last night really made a lot of people in America that I know really depressed. And not so much the substance of what they said, just the clown show nature of it. You had a moderator, some spicy Latino woman that had troubles with the English language. The forum of the debate, everyone disobeyed the rules. People were jumping in with each other. So if someone they had their 1 minute, like Vivek, a bunch of people start screaming before he was done. At one point, there's 5 or 6 people all yelling, and the moderators totally lost control, and there was no sense of decorum. And just when I was younger, it would have been, of course, everyone running for president would have been a white man, and they would have conducted themselves in a way of a gentleman. Now, you may hate their policies, but they wouldn't interrupt. It'd be more than a minute. You'd talk about your position maybe for a few minutes, and then the other person would respond, and you wouldn't interrupt them. That's how debates went. That was the civilized way to do it. Whereas everything now looks like the Jerry Springer show from the 1990s. I have to expect them to start picking up a chair and throwing it at each other. it's crazy, and they're making a mockery out of everything. But this is where we are in America. Everything's a mockery. Our political system's a mockery. Our legal system is a mockery. We no longer have a border. The judicial system is a mockery. Our streets are running wild savages. It's symbolic of really what's happening. And, good for Donald Trump for not being part of that shit show. And some of the people involved, at least they were trying to save it a little bit. One of the moderators was some blonde woman that had the maturity of a 14-year-old. And she asked them, okay, let's pretend this is Survivor and you have to vote someone off the island. Who on the stage would you vote off? Everyone secretly write their question or write their answers. Well, that's ridiculous. These guys are running for the president of the United States, supposedly the greatest nation in the world. And she's treating this like you're in junior high. And good for DeSantis. He pushed back on that, said, this isn't really appropriate. And some of the others were going to do it. So I'm glad that DeSantis spoke up there to try to give some dignity to this clown show. But the fact that we got to this level is really sad. And it wasn't that long ago that you wouldn't expect this behavior from kids in high school. Kids in high school would follow the rules better than you see. And these are supposed to be the leaders, our leaders. In some cases, they're governors or senators, and they're acting with the maturity of 14-year-olds. And it's really embarrassing. And so that whole behavior, when you see your leaders act in such an immature fashion without able to control themselves in an undignified fashion, again, it'd be like showing up to your wedding in a torn t-shirt with food on it. You're basically making a mockery of the whole thing. And maybe we need to laugh about the political system, but it's sad because at one time there was a sense of sacredness about this, that we are a nation under God, and this is a very important thing, our republic, and we need to talk to the voters in a mature fashion and talk about the issues, not act like it's a World Wrestling Federation. There's that movie called Idiocracy, and it's really coming true. And it's funny on one level, but on another level, when you watch it, it's just depressing. Now, how does this respond to us? I really think we need to start getting back. You forget what the trash is doing in the world. We need to start having a higher standard behavior, how we deal with each other. I'm not talking to the savages. We don't have to treat them as gentlemen. They're not gentlemen. They should be treated as savages. But people that can behave like adult men and women should be treated like gentlemen and ladies. And there's certain ways you conduct yourself in public. And that doesn't mean you can't have fun in private, go crazy. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you have to have a stick up your butt and you can never cut loose. But there's a time and a place for everything. If you're at a funeral, you need to be respectful. If you're at a wedding, be respectful. And if you're representing your state or you're a senator and you're running for the highest office in the land, that this country was founded by George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. We created the greatest country in the world has ever seen. Have some respect. And the candidates on that stage, forget their politics, which were horrible. They had no respect. And it was embarrassing. I consider them all to be losers. So who won the debate? Anyone that was a part of the debate won the debate. So what we can do is at least try to bring some dignity back when we interact with each other and how we behave with our fellow people. And that's what we need to do. We don't have to live like the garbage, like how they're living right now. We can set a higher standard. It's tough. I know it is, but I think this is one of the ways we can go forward. Talk to you guys later.